educational background? Is it from your spouse, from your child or children, from your parents, or wealth, your bank account, savings? Is it from your influence or power at work or in your society or in your clan, diba? Or yung network mo, yung connection, kung sinong kakilala mo. So, kanino ka kumukuha ng security, sisters? So ngayon we will look at Bathsheba, but first let's read yung backgrounder ng story natin for this morning. Okay, so let's go to 2 Samuel 11 verse 1 to 5. So nasa screen na siya para madaling sundan. So babasahin ko ng mabilis. In the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. They destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained in Jerusalem. One evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. Okay, nanili pang hari. The woman was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her. The man said, "Oh, she's Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam and the wife of Uriah the Hittite." Then David sent messengers to get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. Now she was purifying herself from her monthly uncleanness. Then she went back home. The woman conceived and sent word to David saying, "I am pregnant." Tapos jump tayo sa verse 26 to 27. So in between this, alam natin na nagpinlano ni David na pauwiin si Uriah para makipag siping sa asawa niya para lumabas na siya yung ama, di ba? Pero hindi pumayag si Uriah kasi syempre nasa war sila, alangan namang nagpapakasarap siya, di ba? Pero lumalaban yung mga kasamahan niya. So in short, he plotted to kill Uriah. And then so when Uriah's wife heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for him. After the time of mourning was over, David had her brought to his house and she became his wife and bore him a son. But the thing David had done displeased the Lord. And eventually, sisters, yung son na to namatay. So I know you know the story of Bathsheba already. Perhaps you have heard about her in another story or lesson or in your quiet time while you were having your quiet time. Pero let's take a deep dive into Bathsheba. So, sino ba si Bathsheba? Who is Bathsheba? So, from what we have read, she's a very beautiful woman. Diba? Siguro sexy, pwede, or maganda yung shape ng katawan niya and maganda yung itsura niya. And she's the wife of Uriah the Hittite, the daughter of Eliam. We know that she committed adultery with King David. You know, at a time of war, alam mo yun, pag pinatawag ka ng hari, sino ka para hindi pumunta, di ba? Maybe of course, she did not plan this adultery and maybe she resisted, pero, you know, mananalo ka ba sa hari? Nung time na yun ha, at this time. And then the first son died. And actually, si Bathsheba ang turning point nung reign ni King David. It was yung sin niya with Bathsheba was David's downfall na. Parang start ng downfall ng kanyang reign. Okay. So this is what we know about Bathsheba from what we read. So, you know, before the relationship with King David, uh, she must be living a good life, you know. She's beautiful, she's married, well respected sa lugar nila, and then this thing happened. So I don't have points, pero ano lang, mga siguro yung take away natin na lang yung mga i-discuss ko. So the point here is God took all the sources of her security so she can rely on him, on 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 God. Okay, number one, uh, naging immoral siya with David while she was still married. So, alam mo yun, yung she lost her dignity because of what happened. And then her husband died while fighting a war. Alam mo yun? Siguro ang feeling ko hindi niya alam na si David ang may kasalanan kung bakit namatay yung asawa niya. So she really mourned, and she must have really loved her husband because the scripture says that she mourned for her husband. Alam mo yun, yung loss ng mahal mo sa buhay. Tapos ang masakit pa, namatay yung first son niya with King David. You know, parang 7 days lang, and then the baby died. So, alam mo yun, saan niya kukunin ang security? Hindi sa kanyang dignidad, sa kanyang asawa, or sa kanyang capability to conceive. Yung even her position, you know, years later, when she had Solomon, even her position and her very life was threatened. So we can read that in 1 Kings 1:11 to chapter 2 verse 19. So nung sinet up ni Adoniha, yung isa sa mga son ni David himself as king, her position as the mother of Solomon and Solomon were threatened. So they're almost killed kasi syempre ipapapatay sila ni Adoniha because si Adoniha na yung king, but she held on to God's promise to them through David. Okay? So yun. So just to share briefly then from my experience in ganun, you know, I used to, you know, be really prideful and madaming mga, alam mo yun, mga kumbaga security, you know, graduating from UP. Pero alam mo yun, isa-isang kinuha ni God lahat yung mga yung mga kumbaga pwedeng source ng security ko. So after graduating UP, hindi ako nag-turn kaagad ng work, you know. It took me 6 months pa rin of continuously looking for a job. Parang hindi siya naging madali for me. So 6 months na paghahanap ng work, you know, parang every Monday, naalala ko, every Monday naka-fasting ako. Kasi number one, nagtitipid. Number one, nagbebeg ako ng trabaho kay God. Number two, nagtitipid. So number two lang yun. Okay, so, you know, after 6 months, I finally had a job. So it was not easy. And then when I became dating, nung boyfriend ko pa lang yung asawa ko ngayon, si Willard, we fell into impurity. So alam mo yun, God took away my dignity. So, you know, I remember having to confess in front of the church yung pinagagawa namin, yung sin namin, and really asking for forgiveness from the church and from the people that we na nag-stumble siguro from what we did. So, alam mo yun, parang it's really a humbling time for me na parang wala ka talagang may pagmamalaki on my part in my case. And then in 2010, I was fired from my job. Imagine, I was working at the Israel embassy, and I didn't really have a good relationship with my boss, the ambassador of Israel. So, you know, kahit na hindi ko gusto, I was terminated. Imagine, God took away all my security. And at that time, I was pregnant with my firstborn, si Wiljem. Tapos, so yung asawa ko lang yung nag-work. And then after I gave birth, nawalan din siya ng work. So pares kami nawalan ng work. And alam mo yun, I remember having prayer times every day, prayer walks with my husband every day. Alam mo yun, begging for my family to survive. Kasi syempre, I now have a kid, tapos I don't have work, Willard doesn't have work. So we're living sa mother-in-law ko at that time. So I think I can relate with Bathsheba in that sense na kinuha niya lahat ng security ko para pero those were the times na naging close din ako kay God kasi nag-rely ako sa panalangin talaga. Ganun. So yun, just a little bit of sharing. Pero yun, so on the positive side, because she trusted God, si Bathsheba, God gave back all she lost. So she became a respected queen and eventually queen mother. So we can read that in 1 Kings 1:11 to 2:14. And 1 Kings chapter 2 verse 28 to 31. So alam mo yun, even the prophet Nathan went to her, he paid respect to her as the queen and the mother of Solomon. So even her son actually was named after Nathan. One of her sons, kay King David, was named after Nathan. So imagine her she was it was returned to her yung dignidad na nawala sa kanya nung kabataan niya. And then after her first son with King David died, she bore him 4 more sons mentioned in 1 Chronicles 3 to 5. So yung nawala niyang anak na una, it must be really hard to lose to lose a son. As a mom, parang hindi ko ma-imagine na mamatay yung anak ko. Pero sa kanya, first son pa yun. Pero pinalitan naman ni God ng 4 pang anak. And then, she was mentioned and part of the lineage of Jesus. Alam mo yun, she became part of God's plan because she allowed God to use her as He had planned. So we can see in Matthew 1 verse 6, although ang reference sa kanya, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. Pero alam mo yun, she was even part of the genealogy of Jesus. So, what she did was really amazing. She trusted God. Kahit na naging devastated siya nung kabataan niya, she trusted God. So, in Proverbs 31 verse 1, it says here, the words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. So si King Lemuel, wala naman talagang King Lemuel sa Israel or sa history books ng Israel. So para siyang pseudonym ni Solomon. So basahin natin dito sa footnote. So Jewish legend identifies him as Solomon, making this advice from his mother Bathsheba. But there is no evidence for that. Alam mo yun. So, may mga haka-haka na nagsasabi na itong Proverbs 31 woman is actually Bathsheba. It has reference to Bathsheba. Kasi, the book of Proverbs was written by by King Solomon. And, nandito yung kahit influence nung nanay niya. And she was referred to as the Proverbs 31 woman. So let's read the final few verses of this chapter. Sabi niya dito, her children have risen and called her blessed. Her husband also praised her. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is fleeting. A woman who fears the Lord, she makes herself praiseworthy. Give her credit for what she has accomplished, and let her works praise her in the city gates. So imagine, so si Bathsheba naging, alam mo yun, ganito siyang ka-attractive, you know, because she feared God. So people really praised her for what she did as a mother, as a wife, as a loyal citizen of Israel. So okay, so that ends the lesson. Pero siguro mag-share din ako about my journey as a disciple. You know, right now, syempre uh, hindi naman din kaila sa inyo na eventually din naman parang na-refresh din naman ako ni God, na blessed din naman niya ako with a job sa Asian Development Bank. Alam mo yun, parang it's not easy to get a job sa bank. Pero nadaan sa dasal. Parang lahat ng you know, lahat ng meron ako ngayon nadaan sa dasal. So I really owe to God everything that I have. And then dati ang pangarap ko lang magkaroon ng pamilya, but you know, God gave me true enough a family, a husband and 2 kids. So happy na ako doon actually. So I feel complete, and I think God has really helped me until now in my career. So somehow I really parang sa dasal lang ako nanindigan. So okay, so for our guide question. So if it's not God, what are you holding on to that you think will bring you security? You know, if kung hindi si God or kung hindi ang Bible, not His words, ano yung hinahawakan, pinanghahawakan mo ngayon na sa tingin mo magbibigay ng security? So the challenge is to imitate Bathsheba's example and have confidence in holding on to God and His promises. So I hope it's a very short lesson, but I hope that we learned something from Bathsheba. Thank you very much for listening. I hope na-inspire din tayong lahat sa kanya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ate Em. Ayan. Ayan, salamat po ulit for being with us this morning. And ayan, ang pinaka nag-stick sa akin is yung when you shared na yung Proverbs 31 woman might probably be Bathsheba. Parang biglang, what? Ang laking change in perspective na na parang 'di ba kasi yun nga 'di ba si Bathsheba is often looked on or looked at as yung kontrabida ganyan na she was sinful, pero si King David naman talaga yung nag-sin, ganyan. Tapos yun nga, na yung her dignity was taken from her kasi even the son that she had died. Tapos, maraming nangyari. Yung asawa niya, namatay or pinapatay ni David, di ba? Ang daming nangyari sa buhay niya. And then after all that, through all that, she still chose to be an example as a woman, a good mother din. Na yun nga, na she was glorified by her children in that way na yun pa nga na it's possible that siya nga yung Proverbs 31 woman, di ba? Practically a queen. And hindi lang queen by the position or ranking ng mga anak niya and mga asawa niya before, but also because of her attitude, di ba? Na ganun, to be that influential and yun nga, to serve as a good example, hindi lang sa mga anak niya, pero pati sa ibang tao. So, ayun. And then, ang challenging ng question, hindi ko alam kung paano sagutin. Pero ako, siguro in terms of my pride, I often look for security from my own talents, from my own skills, yung yabang na lang ganyan. Sa yabang dumidepende na na sa paraan na lang din ni God, 'di ba? He brings me down na ito yung secure, you find your security there. Sige, let's take away opportunities. Hindi man take away opportunities, pero alam mo yun, yung because of your pride, 'di ba? Pride brings downfall sa mga tao. So yun, ako sa akin din, yun yung nagiging downfall ko. Pero at the same time, pag nandun ako sa point na, sige na nga, ayoko na, surrender. Hindi give up, surrender kay God. Na wala, God, ikaw talaga naman, ikaw naman nagbigay nito. Tapos yun, siya ulit yung mag-open up ng opportunities nang practically wala akong ginagawa. Tapos biglang may mag-message sa akin for opportunities to earn, ganyan. Using those talents din na proud ako previously na hindi, ako na lang, kaya ko to, magaling ako dyan, ganyan. Kasi when I surrender that to God, ayan, siya rin ang nagbibigay ng opportunities to use those talents. So, ayun. Salamat ulit, Ate M, this morning for sharing with us about Bathsheba. And I will stop